we are responsible to make something out of the time that we're given. And we have everything, you have everything that inside of you now to be able to make something beautiful out of this time, this pandemic that you've been given. Some people had, amazing projects that they were able to get done. Some people built businesses during the pandemic or became coaches there's just endless possibilities of what you can do with this time. And I'd invite you to just get a piece of paper out and write down the things that you can do. Just really be creative about the different things you can get into or the things you can build on that are already existing in your life to make more out of them. And you will be able to bring more to your instrument when you come back. Hey, welcome back everybody to another episode of Trust the Process. I'm really excited to talk to you about what I've been thinking about recently, what's been on my mind. At the time of this recording, I recently released an episode with a world-class horn player by the name of Frankie Losurdo. He's currently playing in Australia with the Western Australia Symphony Orchestra, and he's done a bunch of research due to his own injury on the anatomy of breathing and the musculature of your face and how that interacts with the instruments. Wonderful interview. If you haven't listened to it, please go back and listen to it. And he mentioned something in there that I've been chewing on for a long time since we recorded it. And he mentioned, kind of almost as an offhand comment, that this time of your injury and your injury recovery is kind of like a COVID time and a second pandemic, if you will. And that just got me thinking because, it's early 2024 when I'm recording this. And so we've been out of the pandemic for a couple of years now. And it was a trying time for all of us as musicians, as human beings, first of all, but also as musicians, because naturally our career is designed to do is to share something with other people, right? We are sharing music with other people through performing or through teaching or through recording. And a lot of those things, basically all of those things, had to go away for a little bit. And then, as Zoom started becoming more of a thing and other technologies, we were able to get some semblance of normalcy during the pandemic. I don't have to explain, the details of the pandemic. If you've been a human being in the last 5 years, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it got me thinking about the similarities between that pandemic and our time going through injuries and going through recovery from those injuries as musicians. And, we have certain opportunities that are given to us when we have something that's so fundamental to our being and our careers and everything. When that's taken away, we have certain opportunities that are given us in those moments that weren't available to us or weren't as visible to us, I guess, before we got injured. For example, in the pandemic, basically podcasts, I think, became a really big thing during the pandemic. I know they existed beforehand, but especially during the pandemic, a lot of podcasts started coming up. And I started listening to some trumpet player podcasts or trumpet, where they interviewed musicians or famous trumpet players in the community. And it was interesting to hear as those episodes were coming out during the pandemic, especially listening to them now, a couple of years after the pandemic's over, what those musicians did to kind of stay in the game, to keep their musical chops up, because they weren't able to perform. You had Broadway touring musicians who, in a day basically said, they weren't able to do their job, and, recording musicians, they were, they had to, if they, they had to learn how to record things at home. And, teachers had to figure out how to teach over Zoom. And some of those people that I heard interviews from, they did one or two things. They either found something new to do, whether that be something new within their career, within their music, or something completely outside of music to do. And then the other camp of people kind of just sat around and hoped to wait out the storm, and it was interesting to see the difference in personalities, and not only the difference in personalities, but the difference in kind of like their demeanor between the people who chose to make something of the pandemic and chose to, and those who didn't, weren't as proactive during the pandemic. And I'm not trying to shoot anybody down or make anybody feel bad. It's just an observation that I made. And those of you who are going through injuries, going through recovery from it, you have those same opportunities. Fundamentally, we have this thing that was taken away from us. In the pandemic, it was our ability to be around people, right, safely and without getting anybody sick. And then, and that it seemed like it was overnight. I mean, I was serving as a church missionary when the pandemic first hit. I was in Las Vegas, and it seemed like overnight the governor said, "No one go outside." That's oversimplifying that situation, but that's what it felt like. It seemed to be overnight. And for my injury, that had some warning signs that I, kind of ignored or at least overrided. But it seemed like everything that I had going for me, went away overnight. And I'm sure other people, more of you guys out there can agree with that when you got injured, it seemed like, that fundamental part of your being was taken away from you. And so, but you still have an opportunity to make something of your injury. The biggest thing that I realized when I got hurt was that I had the opportunity to explore different elements of my musicality. And that included picking up jazz piano. I'm not a pianist. I quit piano lessons when I was 13 so I could keep playing trumpet, and of course I regret that now, but, I started learning how to voice chords on the piano. I started learning how to write for big band. And I, started taking up instruments that I never thought I would perform publicly, like tambourine in a New Orleans style jazz band that I had played with at my school for a number of years. It's found ways to make something of that experience. I still can't play at this point. It's January of 2024, and I'm still taking time off to let myself heal. And, I'm not saying this to put myself up on a pedestal or anything, just kind of, at the very least, just give you an example of somebody who's still going through it. And then the other big thing, probably even more importantly, is that who are you becoming through this, COVID time of your injury, or this pandemic time, however you want to spin it. Who are you trying to become? What other skills are you trying to develop? Are you doing the things necessary to get closer to the people, your loved ones in your life? How are you doing with your physical health? How are you doing with your emotional health? Are you getting out into the community and being a contributing part of your community? These things are all hugely important for you during your COVID time to be able to fully recover, actually, from your injury. I say this all the time on the show, but as you invest in other parts of your life, through your injury or through your injury recovery period, you'll have so much more of yourself to give to your music and to your audiences and, whatever the medium or outlet you choose. But you will have so much more to give because you have taken the time to build up yourself as a person, during this time of your own personal pandemic, so to speak. Another thing that I really like is, one of the guys that I like to listen to, he's huge in the personal development space. He's probably the biggest guy, is Tony Robbins. And he always talks about the principle of seasons in our lives. And he, the pandemic was a season, winter he says like spring is the time where you plant, everything's blooming, it's all beautiful. Summer's hot, it can be kind of tough, but you're still getting things done. Fall is a harvest time, so you're reaping the benefits of all the things that you've done in the past. And then you have winter, and winter's cold. Being in Vegas for 2 years led me to really not like, my cold tolerance went way down, and so some people really don't enjoy the cold. But you also have things like Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Just that time to be with family and loved ones. But then also you have like snow sports. And he makes the comparison. Some people will just shut themselves off and stay inside during winter and not be productive. And some people go out and ski, or they snowboard, or they go, celebrate these holidays with their family and their loved ones. And so it's, we are responsible to make something out of the time that we're given. And you have everything that inside of you now to be able to make something beautiful out of this time, this pandemic that you've been given. Some people had, amazing projects that they were able to get done. Some people built businesses during the pandemic, or became coaches, there's just endless possibilities of what you can do with this time. And I'd invite you to just like get a piece of paper out and write down the things that you can do. Just really be creative about the different things you can get into, or the things you can build on that are already existing in your life, to make more out of them. And you will be able to bring more to your instrument when you come back. It's totally possible for you to come back. I just want to be the person to tell you that it is possible to come back from an injury. You can still have that level of musical expression that you had before on your instrument. And even more so if you take this time to make something out of this winter time, this COVID time, whatever you want to call it. And you have everything inside you to do that right now. So I hope this has been helpful. This has been a principle that has really helped me in the more difficult times of my recovery. And just keep on keeping on and keep trusting the process. So until next time, just keep doing that. Thanks for listening today. I hope you got as much out of it as I did. To see a full bio for our guest today, see the show notes, or go to our website at trusttheprocesspodcast.com. Make sure you share this with a musician you care about who is going through injury, a music educator in your life, or anyone just trying to make it in life. If you have a suggestion for a guest or topic to cover, shoot me an email at trustprocesspodcast@gmail.com, or send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. Before we go, I just want to give a heartfelt thank you and shout out to my team: Daniel Baldwin, who is my audio engineer, Kevin West, who does all music and sound effects for the show, Peyton Womack, our website developer, and my sister, Dana Lovell, who created the logo and promotional materials. We wouldn't have the show without them. So tune in next time for another episode of Trust the Process.